This is how first humans will survive on Mars. It seems like everyone has Mars on the mind these days. NASA wants to send humans to the Red Planet by 2030, and SpaceX wants to get there even sooner, with plans to have people there by 2024. Owner of Tesla and SpaceX, Elon Musk plans on building an entire city on Mars by 2050. According to him, the city would be fully functional and can house almost 1 million humans. Initially this idea was laughed upon and no one believed this could be a possibility. But after Elon Musk joined hands with NASA, this vision might soon become a reality. This red planet is our neighbor in the solar system. But it has none of the components that make life possible here on Earth. It's full of radiation and too cold for liquid water and has an atmosphere we can't breathe, and soil that we can't grow anything in. Mars is almost 33.9 million miles far from Earth, and according to scientists it is nothing more than a desert. To make human journeys possible on Mars, a special type of starship is being made by Tesla, and according to Elon Musk, this spaceship will operate on the least amount of fuel. Now the question arises, how will humans colonize Mars? The atmosphere of Mars is mostly carbon dioxide, the surface of the planet is too cold to sustain human life, and the planet's gravity is a mere 38% of Earth's. Plus, the atmosphere on Mars is equivalent to about 1% of the Earth's atmosphere at sea level. That makes getting to the surface tricky. Back in 2007, scientists considered 4 possible solutions to get astronauts to the surface. One idea was a legged landing system based off the lunar lander. This system could provide the option to both land and take off from the red planet. Secondly, the SLS system, or Sky Crane Landing System, would use population systems to lower rovers and other equipment onto the surface. This system can unload cargo and take off again. The third design discussed was an airbag landing system, which would rely on a rocket that cuts its thrust above the surface of the planet, as well as an airbag for the equipment to land on. However, this wouldn't be the best option for people. Lastly, scientists considered touchdown sensing. Equipment senses the surface and the landing site, and compensates accordingly. 10 years later, scientists have other ideas on how to land manned missions to Mars. According to Rick McGuire Davis Jr., Assistant Director for Science and Exploration and co-leader of the Mars Human Landing Sites study at NASA, landers will have to dive deep into the Martian atmosphere and skirt closer to the surface than we have done in the past, since the Martian atmosphere is thickest near the surface. After landing, the next question arises is how will a human survive there? If you want to survive on Mars, you'll need multiple spacesuits that will reflect all the radiation, keep you warm, and provide you with oxygen and sufficient pressure. You'll also need a craft you'll live in until a bigger habitat is constructed, and vehicles to take you on your Martian adventures. The soil on Mars is a very fine, powder-like dust covering the basalt rock. That's precisely the opposite of fertile. If you want to grow anything on the red planet, you'll need a ton of solid biomass waste. You could eventually start growing some lettuce, garlic, and even potatoes. But you'd better stock up with supplies before you go on the mission. And make sure those supplies will last you at least a year, since that's how long it takes for another crew to arrive to Mars. Mars is too cold to have liquid water, instead, it has its water frozen as the polar ice caps. Some initiatives suggest ways that you could extract water in Martian conditions. One of them being an aerogel developed by NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. This silica substance is meant to warm the surface of Mars by 65 degrees Celsius, 150 degrees Fahrenheit. That's a way to melt Martian water ice, and have a supply of drinking water, as well as water for irrigation. Or you could filter your pee, as astronauts on the International Space Station do. A better exploration of Mars could probably create an atmosphere and Earth-like conditions. In order to colonize Mars, many things must be clarified and researched in advance. The pioneers need practicable solutions for safe housing, transportation on the planet, energy supply, drinking water and food. In order to survive, Mars settlers would have to be able to support themselves. Botanists are trying to make the Mars regolith rock fertile by adding terrestrial strains of bacteria. Biomass contains microorganisms that make growth and life possible. Currently projects are underway with Mars Earth in the heights of the Andes. Their scientists are cooperating with indigenous people. For thousands of years they have been able to grow potatoes in soil that is actually considered infertile. In the lower regions they also use simulated Mars conditions for fermentation. Rye, radishes, garden crests, peas, tomatoes and potatoes grow wonderfully, but peppers do not like the Martian soil. To protect people from cosmic radiation, shielded dwellings are necessary, as Mars air cannot be breathed by humans. Settlers would always have to travel outside with special suits and oxygen bottles inside the houses. Ceiling ventilation, heating, water treatment and safety must be perfectly. Living comfort must also not be neglected. The ideas are truly stunning. About a dozen feasible concepts were received. Plans envision houses in the form of pyramids, beehives or root houses half buried in the ground. Greenhouses could be sunk safely into the ground before the storms. The energy supply on Mars will be completely solar, but the extreme weather on Mars could damage solar panels. They could be torn away or damaged by the storms. Without electricity, the settlers would be lost in no time. According to NASA, the solution to the electricity supply would be mini nuclear reactors. For travel purpose, several settlements could be connected by an underground railroad, or however there are other interesting plans that put the colonization of Mars in a new light. Terraforming on Mars involves the creation of an atmosphere. Theoretically, Mars could be transformed into an Earth-like ecosystem through climate change. Numerous space missions have found traces on Mars that allow conclusions to be drawn about its past as a warm and humid water planet. Could Mars be artificially restored to this state? The plans envision a deliberately induced greenhouse effect which could help terraform Mars. However, we humans do not yet know what chain reaction we could trigger. To fly to Mars, a complex maneuver is necessary. Orbits and influences of other celestial bodies have to be considered. A launch straight away from Earth and straight onto Mars is simply not possible. To save time, certain constellations have to be awaited. The best time for a first manned flight would be 2024. The pioneer of the new Mars research, Elon Musk, would like to send material in spaceships to Mars as early as 2022. These are to be loaded in the preferred settlement area of the Arcadia Planitia plain. What do you think? Will Elon Musk manage to do so?